Welcome to the Gameweek11 Compass show of Net That Haul. I'm joined by Hibbo, my fellow fantasy football hub writer, and I'm FPL Nima. How are you, Hibbo?
Not too bad. Just looking to see if I can add like a ninth green arrow to my collection here. Jimenez has come off, so I think that stands me in good stead. So just to run the viewers through tonight's agenda for the stream, we're going to review our teams from Game Week 10 and we're going to look, I suppose, at early transfer thoughts going into Game Week 11. Then we'll review the games from a kind of statistical point of view, look at your transfer trends, and then answer any questions from both Twitter or the live Q&A.
Yeah, so just before we go into it then, I just want to get a little bit of housekeeping out of the way. So thank you to the 6 of you who are here already while the match is still going on. So to timestamp it, obviously for the podcast listeners, it's Monday night and the Wolves-Everton game is still going on. And is it still 2-1, Hibbo?
It's still 2-1. As I said, Jimenez was just substituted off there now, so no more goals from him. 5 minutes on the additional time, so Everton could
Okay,
maybe
not
push.
long to go. Is Gray still on the pitch, that Twitter prick Gray?
I'm not sure. I think he maybe is. Iwobi came off there, so I think Gray's maybe still on. But
Okay.
he hasn't got anything in this game, I don't think.
All right, well, we're nearly at the 10 viewers, so hopefully when the match ends, we'll get the word out, more people will come. But anyway, so just wanted to say, obviously, thanks for joining. If you enjoyed the show tonight and you're new as well, do subscribe, hit the bell so you can see us when we release new content and keep in touch with the channel and become a hauler. So let's go through the mini league, Hibbo.
Yeah, so for people that aren't aware, the code is FG1XMB to join. In first place overnight in the Money League, obviously there'll be an update tonight, but first place is Khalid Badeke. He's on 747 points and he's 66th in terms of OR. So this show also gets put out in kind of audio only format. So if you listen on wherever you get your pods, you can get us. But if you listen to us on Apple, you can leave us a 5-star review. And for anybody that picks us up on VOD as opposed to kind of live stream, pop any questions you have about your team going into Game Week 11. Just pop them in the comments, and myself, Nima, or the other boys will pick them up before the deadline. So I think we'll just move on to teams then, and we'll start with, I think, yourself.
I think we should start with you because you've overtaken me, and we normally go with whoever's currently top that game week, and it looks like it's your time now. You've overtaken me with Reece James.
I'll run through. I'll just run through kind of my Game Week 10 side just from back to front. So in Nets I had Foster, so it seemed like a logical move at the time, but in hindsight I feel that it was a mistake because I benched Ramsdale. He got the 10 points. I think he made 8 saves in the match. I wasn't too impressed with Ramsdale since I bought him. I think both times he's kind of had a clean sheet and then conceded around the 70th minute. And then, I don't know, like I feel A, I've made a mistake, and B, I don't think I'll ever be playing Foster again for the rest of the season. I'm just going to be lapping Ramsdale on. Trent Diaz, Cancelo, not much returns from them. James was obviously, if you look at the rest of my team and you look at James basically carried me this week. So I think he had the 2 goals, 21 points, unreal returns.
Rafinha, 2 players returned apart from 1 Salah assist.
I know, so big props to him. Rafinha was very good. I watched parts of Leeds match yesterday. He could have had a goal at the very end, only the ref blew it up as he was going through. So not too bad. It looks like I'm kind of sitting roughly on safety score. If this ends as it is now, I have the green arrow, I think. So not too bad. Buemo obviously didn't play, but he was my first sub. Livramento, I never seem to get him off the bench at the minute. My transfers and my moves and the decisions that I made this week were all kind of counterproductive to my team because I sold Adam Armstrong and he returned. So I brought on Tony.
And he blanked.
and he blanked instead. And I could have done nothing and I could have played Livramento as well. So and I also kind of overthought the whole thing and put Foster on instead of Ramsdale. So I could have just left everything as it was, done nothing, saved the transfer, and probably been in the top 10k in all honesty.
Damn, yeah, I think you were close. You came knocking, right? But that Ramsdale benching must sting. So in terms of next week, you have 1 free transfer and 0.6 million in the bank. So are there any early thoughts you have going into that game week? Is it 11 just before the international break?
I'll be honest with you, I was very, very close to moving Diaz to Ben Chilwell last night, and I didn't do it because I'm trying to kind of live by this mantra this season that I don't want to be kind of influenced by price and that I don't want to be making kind of anxious transfer decisions early in the week based solely on price, and I think that's what I would have been doing if I had bought Chilwell on last night. You've got UCL games, I think, coming this week. There was also a quote, and I know we're going to touch on it later in the show, where they're talking about Tuchel has made a comment that he likes to have tall players for height against like Burnley. And there was chat that before he played Alonso, and then when I saw that quote then today, I kind of thought, maybe I've made the right move, because maybe Chilwell's going to turn up against Malmo, I think it is, in the UCL, and maybe Alonso's going to play in the league. It wouldn't be impossible. So I'm just going to kind of hold my horses a bit. Where I'm kind of, I don't really know where I want to take my team next, because I'm kind of in a bit of a quandary where we know Conte's coming on at Spurs. They've got good fixtures coming. They've got Everton next. Then they've got a really nice run of fixtures that are coming. I think they've got Leeds and Norwich and stuff like that coming up. So I want a bit of that. Now, part of my thought process really is, if I was to kind of downgrade Vardy, to maybe upgrade one of my midfielders to Son. I'm losing that premium striker slot, and I talked about that last week. I could go to Kane and avoid Son. I could downgrade to like a Diaz to maybe like a 4.5 to give myself a bit of cash. I could even upgrade Foden to Son and keep Vardy, because after Chelsea, Vardy's got some nice fixtures too. So I don't know. There's lots of things I want to do, and if I'm being totally honest with you, I think I'm on automatic save this week.
It makes sense. Has something happened in the match?
No, it must be full time, because Bruno Lage is celebrating here. They won 2-1, didn't they?
Nice one for them.
I
guess
but
I'll
no, that's my plan. I'm thinking I'm just going to save a transfer this week and have 2 for after the international break. My side looks really good for this week, so I think it's a safe play.
Yeah, I was gonna do Mbeumo this week, but after what happened to Brentford, even though it's the Norwich fixture, I'm kind of happy just owning Tony. So I'm thinking like I might just save as well and go into the game week 12 after the international break with the 2 free transfers. And I was planning to get Son, right? So I'd have to sell Saka and Rafinha to get Son and someone if I want to keep Vardy, or I'd have to downgrade Vardy or Antonio. And I don't really want to downgrade Antonio. So Vardy has good fixtures, like you say. It's difficult for me. I'm thinking, could I go to Kane in like one move? But to get to Son, I have to take a hit. So there's like lots of different. But there is one, because I've got my wild card. One thing I looked at was, if prices don't change, and this is where price is a problem, Son and the 4.4 million mid can come in for Saka and Rafinha, and then I can bench the 4.4 mid with Brownhill and play
a
back 4.
4-3-3.
Yeah, so always play one of Livramento or White, and I've seen their rotation goes to like game week 25 or something.
That's a good point.
So I'm thinking like that's like a really interesting way of, and if it goes wrong as well, I can wildcard out of the 4.5 million midfielder kind of I guess structure I've put myself into, that normally you wouldn't go into that if you didn't have a wildcard, right? So it's like I got to do something that no one else would do: keep Vardy and get Son and keep Antonio and Salah plus Trent.
Visually, the 4-3-3 never looks right, if you know what I mean.
I know. That's why you need a wild card to fix it when it goes wrong.
You probably do need a wild card to fix it.
It always goes. That's why I'm not willing to go that way yet. Like I could downgrade Vardy to like a Aubameyang, who I'm sure we'll talk about as well tonight. He might slap up Watford next week. Who knows?
Very possible. But no, I think we have a similar kind of thought process, because like you're kind of thinking about how you could get Vardy or keep Vardy and get Son. And that's kind of what's in my thoughts now. Like, and I know I've bought Foden, and I know I've got points out of Foden, but I do think that timing's everything in FPL. Like, getting those James points when I got them, now people might jump on and they might not get there. He might not score the same amount of points going forward. Same as Foden, I got the big raise out of him. Is he going to tail off? Because like part of what we were looking at kind of in terms of the Man City fixtures, I think they've got a PSG in the UCL. They play United this week. Then they have Everton the week after. Then they have PSG in the UCL after Everton. And like, you know the way people talk about the Pep Roulette and they try and guess. They're saying, could Foden potentially not play against Everton in order to play in the UCL because it's a bigger match
than Everton as they stand? Yeah,
I think there's a chance that he could maybe drop out in one of the games. And if it's the case, if you could predict the rotation and move the Son when he plays a good fixture in game week 12, you could be playing with fire, because he could turn up against Everton, Foden, and just absolutely hack up, and you could be playing with fire. Like, I don't know.
But what's your answer to people who would do that move now? So like say move to Son or Kane this week because of how Everton were this week. Like if they just go straight in and say, you know what, I can't avoid these price rises. I'm gonna buy them new manager. Let's pray.
It's ballsy.
It is, but I think I would wait to have the two transfers, like you were saying, over the international break. I
Aye,
wouldn't. I wouldn't want to go that early, right?
is Conte going to be there this weekend? Like, I doubt it. He'll not have done any training time. Do you know, Mason, you would imagine, is going to take a team this weekend. And is he going to improve them that much? I don't know. I wouldn't have thought so.
I think one thing I will say, my OR has dropped significantly since the screenshot. So I started the week, I think, at 12.5k. I was 19k overnight, but those Wolves points have made me drop to at least like 25k, I think.
I'm
So
just going to check mine now to see where I'm sitting as well.
yeah, seeing as the game week is over, we might as well
So
announce it now.
you're basically thinking save transfer. That's where you're sitting at the moment.
Yeah, I'll just read out my team for the podcast listeners as well quickly. So I've got Foster, I played over Sanchez, and that extra 1 point meant a lot in a 43-point game week. But I also had Cancelo, Trent, Rudiger. I had Saka, Foden, Rafinha, Salah captain, Antonio, Tony Vardy, Sanchez on the bench, and then obviously Livramento, White, and Brownhill. So I know that what I should have done is I should have played Livramento and White instead of Trent and Cancelo, and I reckon I would have been in the top 10k. It's like every decision at this stage of the season is such a dangerous decision. Like I did a move, right? So I sold Benrahma for Foden. I lost 3 points there. I sold Ronaldo 2 weeks ago for Vardy. He got like 2 points versus like 14 points from Ronaldo. It's like, and I keep looking at it and I think, that's it. I'm fucking rolling a transfer this week. Like, I've got benching headaches. What's the point of using a transfer before an international break? So, as it is, like, I want to play one of White and Livramento every week and I can't. So, what would you say if I decide to go for Son and Gilmore now before any price changes? Obviously, I wouldn't do it today, but I would keep an eye on price changes. And if it got halfway through the international break and Son was going to rise and I'd be priced out, would you go now just to keep Vardy and then wildcard if it goes wrong?
Is this for -4?
No, no, no. What, this week? Yeah, it would be. Yeah, this week. Yeah,
Probably
actually, I
not.
see. Yeah, not. Yeah, I see what you mean. Because Saka has Watford,
I wouldn't make that.
Rafinha have
I wouldn't.
Leicester.
I wouldn't make that move this week. No way.
But then that means I have to then take a minus for the following week to maybe downgrade one of like Antonio, Vardy, or Tony as well if I want to
You could
keep
play
some.
this. You could play this wild card that you've been keeping in your back pocket for a rainy day.
No, no, I need to keep that. I'm not ready to use that. I don't. The problem is, right? I feel like the fixture swing when it comes in 14, it will be
It's
just like the
bigger.
last ones that no, but I feel like it will be just like the ones that have gone, and I'll be like, oh damn, like I'm so like mentally involved in the game that I'm already just 3, 4 moves away from whatever the next like fixture or template is going to be, and I just keep feeling like I don't need to use the wild card. And I don't know what to do with myself. Like I don't want to do what others have done, which is keep it till the end and burn it.
Well, like you know, like FPL Matthew, he was on the show with us, and like obviously we both talked to him because he writes for Hub and that, and he had been talking about his wild card, and that was his general kind of thought process that oh, I'm going to hold this wild card that long that it's not going to be worth any value because my team's always going to look fairly current anyway. And I think he played his wild card this week and he got a big red arrow. So the wild card's one of these things that you have to play it eventually. And
Once you do it, it goes wrong though sometimes in the first week, but it's not for 1 week, right?
no, it's not for 1 week. And that's what I said to him in the Hub chat. I'll roll out the wild card cliches. The wild card's for life, not for Christmas, you know.
I love
But
that.
we'll dive on to
Yeah, let's just say hi to I guess some of the live
yeah,
viewers who joined in. There's
100%.
like 32 comments, so quite a lot going on that we
Right.
didn't notice. Yeah, but we will go into the game week reviews after as well, obviously. So just Ramanathan, hello, first of the evening. Blue Danube guy, evening. Fahim Masood. He was here at 2:45 a.m., so I can only imagine it's 3 a.m. now. Where are you, man?
Madness. He must be
Hibbo, they're
hungry.
talking about your location already.
Who?
Uh, yes, Ramanathan. Squeak Squeak as well is here. Oscar Arias, Belzeru. Jimmy didn't let us down. I don't know who us is. I don't have Jimmy. I have him in other formats, but wow. Okay, we got Ike Nuri Yellow. We missed all of it. Wang off for silver. I'll just say hi to the last few people before we carry on. Sorry to the podcast listeners. As I say, click the skip 30 seconds or 1 minute at this point each week. So Soothsayer's here from New Zealand evening. Oh, Liam's here as well, my mate who I go to the Arsenal games with. We just got the tickets to the Newcastle home game. So imagine
Nice
if
one
Unai Emery is manager though. Have you seen the links? Imagine he comes to the
for
Emirates while we're
Newcastle.
there. Yeah. They want to pay him out of his Villarreal contract. Like,
I don't know about that.
and they want to do it during the international break, apparently. So he could come to the Emirates, Unai Emery.
Be interesting. I would fancy he's the hammer them if I'm being
It would
totally
be
honest.
hilarious if he won, though.
No, he's not winning. Newcastle are terrible.
Uh, we've got Dan from the FPL way here as well. Harry. No, I thought I saw Harry, but it's actually, sorry, it's a FPL Gameweek as well. Andy Martin, Blue Nix, FPL Penguin. Anyone else? No, I feel like we've shouted out everyone now. I'll let you get into the game week review.
Oh, sorry, I knocked my microphone. Right, so we're going to start. We'll get the ball rolling here with Leicester against Arsenal. So it was Leicester 0, Arsenal 2. And in terms of XG, Leicester had 1.87 and Arsenal had 0.69. So as we know, Ramsdale made 8 saves to help Arsenal to a 2-0 win. And he's had a save percentage of 85%. And his points per match average is 5.6. And he's second only to Mendy among first choice goalkeepers this season, which is fairly impressive. In terms of the players on the screen at the minute, so Yuri Tillmans, he created a game week high 5 chances in the defeat the Arsenal, taking him. So he made 12 key passes over the last 4 game weeks, and the only person to beat that total is Bruno Fernandes. So in terms of injuries, White and Odegaard returned. Tierney was again off, and Arteta was fairly downbeat about when he's going to come back. So you will have known this match a bit better than me. So what did you think? Lucky.
Yeah, I was upset I couldn't see it, but I'd say that it was mainly all down to kind of Ramsdale. So like
Mm-hmm.
he was definitely putting a man of the match performance. I think he made 8 saves, and his free kick save, like, it's really riling people up online. Everyone who said he was like a relegated goalkeeper, and then he's come in, and I don't think he's lost the game that he started. So it's good times to have a young keeper like that,
He's a
23
good
years old.
he's a good shot stopper.
Yeah, yeah. I was thinking of you as well, man. When I watched it, I kept thinking to myself, at least I benched Sanchez for Foster. And I knew you'd bench fucking Ramsdale's 10-pointer.
Uh,
Oh, man.
I think it had logic at the time where I was thinking, well, I don't want to kind of play Vardy and Ramsdale because it can conflict. And I was looking at the fixture for Foster and thinking Southampton, maybe not the greatest at the minute. But it went the other way. I would be as well. I'm just from now on going forward. I'm just going to play Ramsdale every week. Regardless of any kind of conflict. He seems to have that kind of high ceiling where he can make the saves, and if he keeps a clean sheet, he's going to get the bonus as well, which he don't get with Sanchez. But
What did you call him? You called him the upside chasing goalkeeper.
he kind of is like he seems to be the option that can hit that double digit, and I feel a wee bit alright about it because at the same time I think that I'm on the right goalkeeper, regardless of the fact that I benched him this week. I feel that I'm on the right goalkeeper, which isn't too bad.
Yeah, no, I think he looks good. I guess what I would say as well is I was very happy to get that Saka assist from the corner. I was a bit nervous when it looked like it passed Vardy's hair, and I thought maybe they're
I
going to count it as a Vardy pass. So I was starting to get worried when I watched that game. But luckily we got the points. It made up for the couple of blanks.
not so bad. So I'm just
What,
going
what,
to dive on. Go
Yeah,
ahead,
just
Shay.
just before the next game, something I do want to say, something I've seen is people being cute on Twitter already on their boss teams and benching Antonio like second on the bench because he's playing Liverpool. And it's kind of similar to what you were saying about you didn't want to have your goalkeeper and your attacker playing each other to try and maximize the points in your team that week. And
Mm-hmm.
now you've kind of regretted not playing Vardy and Ramsdale together. So I'll play Antonio with Trent. I've seen people benching Trent this week against West Ham, let alone the following week.
No, I don't like that benching Antonio against. And we'll come on there, I suppose, when we talk about the West Ham match. But West Ham were kind of super attacking. I know Villa were pretty terrible yesterday, but West Ham were super attacking. And on another day, Antonio maybe gets 2 assists. It's
Yeah, he had 2 pre-assists, I remember. So I don't know who looks at that and thinks, "Oh, I've got to get out." I agree with some of the people like Abdul, FPL Salah. He was obviously saying he'd bench him, but I know a lot of people will sell him, and it is the fixture play. So they could jump on anyone. Like Jimenez is doing more at the moment and stuff. So there are options. It's just we've got to see how it ends up going. I know there's a
Yeah,
lot of questions later in the Twitter section about hindsight bias in the community, so I'm sure we'll talk about that when it comes.
hundred
But we'll go
percent.
through the reviews first.
Yeah, so I'll dive on the Burnley now. So this doesn't have a specific slide. So it was Burnley 3, Brentford 1. And Burnley had an XG of 2.51 and Brentford had an XG of 0.81. Maxwell Cornet, he made it 4 goals in just 282 minutes with a superb strike. So no midfielder under 10 million can better Cornet for goals this season, despite the lack of kind of minutes that he's had. Again, like Burnley haven't really been doing clean sheets, but Luton has moved up to third in the 4.5 million and under defenders point table, where he's third and fourth attacking returns of the campaign. Chris Wood has some good numbers, so he had 5 shots, 3 on target, and an XG of 0.82. Ayer must out with a hamstring. In Buemo, he had a hamstring and he was an unused sub. And Pinnock and Janelt made playing comebacks. What's this? I won't play Antonio. Trust Liverpool clean over an Antonio return. I wouldn't have trusted a Liverpool clean at the weekend. They were terrible at the back.
Yeah, I trust West Ham to be as good as Brighton on an attacking perspective, if not better.
I saw a table of like a league table. I think it was in transfer market, and I think it was this calendar year. And West Ham were maybe third or fourth, just sitting just behind Chelsea for like games this kind of from January 2021 to now. So like West Ham have been really good under David Moyes. So I don't know about that. I'm definitely going to play him. So I'm just going to dive on the new Man City. So it was Man City nil. If you just click your next slide there, and we'll bring the graphic up.
Yeah, we've lost the
So
presenter view until I get broadband on the 10th of
uh,
April. I've been waiting like a month and a half for this stuff. Wow, they've
the
had to give me
broadbands.
credit. I can't believe it. I'm tethering from my phone. This whole operation could explode at any moment, guys. So if I disappear and Hibbo's on his own, keep him company so he doesn't look as scared this time.
I'll be terrified. Man City nil, Crystal Palace 2. So it was an XG of 0.68 for Man City and an XG of 0.69 for Crystal Palace. So like people would look at the headlines and say, look, Palace beat Man City, 10-man Man City. But they were already 1-0 up when Laporte saw the red card. So Conor Gallagher is now the highest scoring FPL midfielder under £10 million. So he's bagged the sixth and seventh attacking return of the campaign and the one that they already had. So Vieira's side, they didn't allow, they're seventh best in the division for expected goals conceded. So they didn't allow Man City too much room. So on the suspension front, Americ Laporte, he was dismissed for denying a clear goal scoring opportunity. So he's going to miss the Manchester derby. It might open the door for John Stones to have an extended run on the side to kind of help shore Man City up, because I know recently I've had double Man City defence. I've been kind of highly disappointed in having double Man City defence because they've been losing the clean sheets against teams who by rights they shouldn't be losing them. But just to talk through like Gallagher's kind of stats, so he had 2 shots in the box. Both shots were on target. He had an XG of 0.6. He created 4 chances and he had an XA of 0.58. Now, I don't know about you, but he's now looking for me, because we have enough data at this stage. He's looking at budget midfielder of choice, maybe Hammer Smith Rowe. Like where do you sit in that? Because I have saying Bumo, and if I be totally honest, I don't know why you have him Bumo. All right, he showed a bit of promise. He's got good fixtures, great. I'm obviously going to play him against Norwich, but I do think that these two look like better options. Like what's your thinking?
That's what I'm thinking. So I asked people this week in spaces like, should I still get Mbuemo? Because I've got Tony. I've had him since Gameweek 1, and they were like, yeah, you should still go for it. And I can see the reason in it. But if I could go to like a Gallagher or a Cornet now, that could be quite an interesting way for me to, you know, go about it. And I think that would be a nice difference to it. And that's how I get the Sun money as well. So
Well, look, if you're looking at the fixtures for Wolves over the next six, they've got, or Palace over the next six, they've got Wolves at home, Burnley away, Villa at home. Supposedly the only one of those that has a lot of appeals. Villa at the minute, they're pretty bad. Then they've got Leeds away, I suppose that appeals, United away, and Everton at home. So they have some decent enough fixtures, Palace. And Arsenal, what are you like? You have Watford at home, Liverpool away, Newcastle at home, United
these are
away.
home games.
That's a bit of a mixed bag, although you have Everton and Southampton in there. No,
But the
I
good
kind of
thing is
think.
there's no midweek games either. So like this week, like they're resting. They're preparing to slap up Watford. Like Oba this week, that's my tip of the week. Like that's the guy who this week he's gonna get the highest score of the week. You heard it here first on Net That Hall, people. Clip it.
Clip it. Definitely clip it. But no, I'll just move on to kind of Liverpool and Brighton here now. So it was Liverpool 2, Brighton 2. Liverpool win XG of 1.17, Brighton win XG of 1.28. So Salah, he was made captain by over 4.6 million managers in game week 10. So I think he was the most captain player in a single game week in FPL history. So he had a solitary assist, which was kind of underwhelming from a captaincy perspective. But he did have the ball in the net as well, and it was ruled out for offside. Like, so, he wasn't far away from getting that double-digit return. Conte partnered Van Dijk in defence, and personally, I thought Liverpool looked a bit shaky at the back. Mane had a goal disallowed, which would have put Liverpool 3-0 ahead. So Liverpool were 2-0 ahead in this game, and they lost the lead to go back to 2 each. And Trossard had a goal disallowed at the end, which would have won the game for them 3-2. So this was kind of action-packed right up until the death. Liverpool lost Keita to a hamstring injury, and as we predicted last week, Shane Duffy came back into the side.
Nice, yeah. So I went to have a little look. I saw it was a back four. I saw he was in it. That was good to see. Yeah,
And he did well again. So like, I do kind of feel that I do feel he is first choice. Like, I do feel that he is one of the
he's
kind of
got to
higher
move
ranking.
surely. Yeah,
I do think he ranks kind of fairly high amongst kind of Potter's defenders at the minute. And while he will see this bit of rotation, like I was fairly certain that he was kind of getting protected a wee bit in the fact that Potter maybe thought that Brighton were going to get slapped up, as you would say, by Man City, and he maybe took him out of the headlights a wee bit to protect them for the run ahead. But they've got some good fixtures, and like I know you like to talk about say ownership and stuff like that. And whenever I'm talking about my own team and how I'm going to move forward to maybe getting Son or whatever, I'm talking about maybe moving Diaz to like a defender, possibly around kind of 4.5 million. And I think I will go back and they Brighton, if I'm being totally honest with you, because now that these kind of fixtures, they've got like Liverpool and I think they played Man City. Now that they've got these fixtures out of the way, the fixtures seem to ease a wee bit. They play Newcastle, I think, this week. So it could be an option for me to go back and they're Brighton defender because the EO on Brighton defence is maybe it has been up around 80% in weeks, and if they get a clean sheet, you're kind of hammered now in terms of points that are going to be added to the top 10k average. So it's something that I might think about doing is moving back there.
I see. There's a comment as well, actually, from a live viewer just about what you've said. So, you said earlier you didn't do the Diaz to Chilwell. You didn't do it because of prices. You were going to wait till the end of the international and then decide, and you're probably going to
Yeah.
roll. You're going to roll the transfer, right?
I'm going to roll the transfer. I do like that move. Praz FPL made that move this week. Now Anthony Chung posted the comment. They are Twitter page. They raised the point about Tuchel saying about Chelsea want defenders with height to be able to deal with the high ball and against Burnley's kind of taller players and stuff like that. Now Anthony also put a comment up here. Just bear with me to see if I can find it. He said that Chilwell was on press conference duty. So Chilwell apparently done the pre-game pressers with Tuchel today, which would suggest that he's going to start tomorrow. So that's kind of why I didn't want to make the move because we were going to get information midweek. We were going to see who was going to start against Malmo. And if Chilwell starts against Malmo, like what would you rate his chances of starting at the weekend after playing 2 consecutive?
And that brings us on to Reece James, the man on the screen. He's the man you would be going for this week, I think, if you were going to make the move. Obviously, if you don't already have two of them, Chilwell I like, but James seems quite exciting, but he's not going to get those points for the new owners. Is what you said. I think that's what Livramento owners must feel so hurt about, is including myself. I've got some of his points, but the weeks where you benched him and then he gets mass bought in, same with Smith Rowe for people like Mariner. He's benched Smith Rowe both weeks in a row, and now other people are buying him. When you see the transfer translator, it's just ESR buying. The whole midfield is just like 10 out of 10, everyone buying Smith Rowe. And they're now going to get those points with him, and it won't have contributed to any of his rank. And when he watches this back, he's going to be fucking cursing.
Oh, 100%. 100%. I'll touch on Reece James now. So it was Newcastle 0, Chelsea 3, and in terms of XG, it was 0.25 to Newcastle and 2.53 to Chelsea. So Reece James is now Chelsea's leading goal scorer in the Premier League this season following his brace at Newcastle. So Chilwell, I think he picked up 2 bonus points, but he played second fiddle to Reece James. who now has racked up 52 points in just 3 of his 7 appearances this season. So he's averaging 8 points per match in the 21-22 season. And he's among 5 Chelsea assets who lead the way for points per games amongst defenders. His shooting is absolutely explosive. I thought he was going to bust the net twice. And during the week, there was a lot of kind of jangly nerves where people in the community were talking about Reece James being benching. And what I want to say to people out there is try and distance yourself from noise. Try and, because I know there was people kind of considering selling Reece James going into this week.
For Chilwell,
He's going to be a rotation threat. Like, we know when we bought him, I knew when I bought him, he was going to be a rotation threat. But I do know that he's also got a pile of upside. And this was the thing. Say when we did our pre-season series where we were talking about defenders, we had the video where I tapped Reece James this season as being my kind of outside pick for being a defender that was going to explode. And this has turned out to be the case because his data was good last year. His minutes weren't great, but at the same time, he's a player I think who's kind of grown in stature, both kind of international football and club football. And I think he's becoming a bigger player for Chelsea. So I think in that extent, his minutes are going to increase a bit, So in terms of missing Mount.
So wait, Aman Khan is saying just on James that when he doesn't start, he's likely to come on and is less likely for Chilwell to be subbed on. But I think that might have been the case before. But with how well Alonso has played this season and those Champions League games you're talking about, we saw that one time they did the halftime sub, 1/2 each. So it's not unprecedented. And I wouldn't be surprised personally this season if it was the season where we saw Chilwell and Alonso do rotate more. Because right now there's 3 games in November, right? So there's 3 game weeks, game week 11, 12, and 13. But game week 14 to 22, that's 8 game weeks or something. That happens in just 1st of December to 1st of Jan. So the whole of November, there's 3 games. In December, there's 8 games. And there's cup games as well. So I know that on the 20th, I think I'm going to try go see the Sunderland home game at the Emirates for the quarterfinal as well. So it's going to be crazy. And I think people who think Chilwell's fully going to play and he doesn't sub on and only kind of Reece James subs on, I wouldn't pick which of the 2 of them you go for based on that. I would go for which of the 2 you personally want. And I love the idea of doubling up on both. I think that's pretty viable too. But that was just my 2 cents on that.
No, very valid points, but just to kind of answer a man's point, if I'm being honest, coming into this game week, I was kind of seeing Reece James, as I know he had scored the previous game week too, but I was kind of looking at Reece James and I was thinking exactly that. I was thinking I would rather have Chilwell in that slot. I know we talked about it, but I couldn't justify a transfer, because it did feel sideways, because I do think that Reece James can get the returns, and while he can come on and cameo for a 1-pointer, he can score 21 points. And his point scoring, I think he scored 18 points at one point this season as well in a game.
You'll take 5 1-pointers for that, man.
He's got that high upside explosiveness. Now he does sub on, but I think at the time I was playing my Wildcard, Chilwell hadn't played a league match in the first 6, so it was hard to justify buying Chilwell. Do you know why? Wildcarded in game week 8. So the only game that Chilwell had played at that stage was the league match in game week 7. So whenever I played the wildcard, Reece James was kind of the only option, but I think he's come up good for me. Just to kind of finish off in Chelsea, Mason Mount, he was transferred on by more FPL managers than any other player in the run-up to game week 10. But he was a shock absentee and he wasn't in the matchday squad for Chelsea. So apparently he missed out through illness, and Tuchel was fairly tight-lipped on exactly why he's missed out. So people are going to be looking for updates during the week as we kind of go forward.
He's not travelling either. So he's not even travelling for the Malmo game.
Maybe it's COVID or something. Who knows?
They tried to say that it's not COVID. They said we definitively don't think. They were like, it's definitively not COVID. He's just not feeling well. But
right.
they've always said people are unwell all season, right? And then it's been COVID. But this time they're adamant it's not COVID. They've even made an announcement saying it's not COVID. I guess we'll find out.
Makes you think it is. So just to run through then, Watford very quickly. So it was Watford 0, Southampton 1. XG wise, it was 0.81 to Watford and 1.57 to Southampton. So Adam Armstrong, he came back on the starting 11 for Southampton. He had 6 shots in the day, but he lacked accuracy. None of his shots hit the target. So he had an assist. So despite his assist, his finishing continues to frustrate because he's basically only scored 1 of his 27 shots this season. Armstrong's a bit of a sore one for me because I sold him this week for Tony and it probably cost myself points because I could have played Armstrong. I would have been points in the profit and the transfer in the bank. But my thinking was I was always going to move to Tony for Norwich anyway. So I thought I'll make this move now in the hope that maybe Armstrong was going to miss out. But I think I'm kind of guilty of over managing my team a wee bit. So
That's why you're saving this week because you feel like you could have saved last week, been better off for points, and then you would have had two now. So it's like it's kind of you don't want to now go on tilt and do another one free transfer. You're just like you're trying to just reel it back, relax, trust the team you picked, like you said. Don't listen to the noise. Don't just sell Reece James, or if you have Chilwell and he starts midweek, don't just sell him. If you want, it might help your benching headaches, right? So we're all saying we're benching lots of points, and maybe that's the plan going forwards this in December as well. Is watch midweek who kind of City and Chelsea play in the cups, and then if you think you want to take the
gamble.
risk of if you want to bench them, and because they could still score from a bench. I reckon Reece James, I back him to score a goal off a bench. So I put him on the same bracket as like a Jota or a Salah who like will come off a bench or an Oba and get a brace.
The
That's how
team,
much I love the kid. Yeah, so I wouldn't
Chelsea,
mind going with him.
Chelsea are just so set up for their wing backs to be involved.
Did you see the quote today from Tuchel where he said like they interviewed one of the players and he was like he wants the defenders to score all the goals and he wants the attackers to defend or learn to defend or something.
I'm
And
sure
people are going ape shit
Lukaku
about
did
it.
that.
They're not quite getting it. They're not saying he's saying they need to be centre backs. He's just saying they need to put in the work. So like press from the front, obviously, and stuff. But people will read that and be like, what? He's saying his strikers should be centre backs and his defenders should get the goals.
The goals were amazing. I was kind of hoping he was going to step up to take a penalty, but Jorginho wasn't giving that up anyway. But
I thought maybe for the hat trick it could have happened, but I guess not.
I'm not quite at this slide, but I'm just going to talk about
Oh,
United first. No, but you can just leave it on. So it was
yeah, I'll leave
Spurs 0, Man United 3, and in terms of XG, it was 0.88 to Spurs and 1.19 to United. So like Solskjaer went kind of safety first. He brought on a third centre half in the shape of Varane, and he went Varane, Lindelof, and Maguire as three centre backs, and he played Bissaka and Shaw. Now, like looking at the match visually, he basically played a back five, and I think this is like Solskjaer basically fighting for his life and fighting for his job, and he's just going to park the bus to a certain extent and maybe play in the counter and make himself hard to break down, make United hard to break down because defensively they've been kind of all over the shop. So it's good to see him make a change there. So it was a good result for United, but I do think context is important. They definitely aren't Liverpool. Like Spurs ranked joint worst in the division for shots, 103, and only Norwich have scored less goals in the league than Spurs, who've only notched kind of 9 times. So looking at the game, I thought Ronaldo benefited from having Cavani as a strike partner. So he assisted Cavani for the second goal. And he also scored, Ronaldo scored like a bit of a wonder goal, but it was actually a wonder assist because Bruno played a great ball over top and Ronaldo caught it in the volley. So I think Fernandes has got interesting numbers. So he tops the division for key passes, 37, and he's provided 5 big chances. Now, I think as a fantasy asset, he's been kind of written off. I know from like maybe I think it's maybe 15, 16. United's kind of schedule picks up a bit and their fixtures start looking good. And I think Fernandes could be of interest because there's no guarantee that Ronaldo say on pens. Bruno could still be on pens. And he's looking fairly creative. And it could be interesting. So Spurs were awful. We know Nuno's been sacked. Conte is basically nailed on to get the job by the sound of it. And this game was basically dubbed El Sacico, and it has turned out to be El Sacico. So now it's kind of like a sliding doors moment where Conte has kind of was pumping himself out to the United job. And now what's going to happen is he's going to come on at Spurs instead. So it's going to be nice to see. Spurs have got some nice fixtures coming and there's going to be about a new manager bounce. So I think you would want to be getting on those Spurs assets. I think there was a chance that those Spurs assets could have been a bit trappy. If Nuno had stayed, we could have bought into them for the fixtures and they could have
probably
just
would have
died.
been
They could have died in
frightening.
their arse. They could have died in their arse, So, what's your views on Conte?
It is worrying times, but I don't think he can come in and change it around that quickly. But it's just for me, it's the new manager bounce and the idea that they're going to be happy just to not play for Nuno. Like the biggest telling thing for me was on social media today. Like not a single Spurs player came out with like a farewell message yet.
Right?
And like, yeah, like, no, maybe it's because it's not like fully official. Because I also saw one random post that was like they're not relieving him of his duties until they have the replacement signed. So they're like keeping him in the office and like torturing him for an extra 24 hours, like sitting there just waiting for his next successor to come and take over.
No, that was quite telling. But like I thought, whenever
And it,
Mourinho left, like Kane was like very outwardly poor, and he's grieving for Mourinho leaving. Like so I'm thinking,
but they've known this guy for 3 months, right? So it's not the same. And I
no,
think
it's
I
not.
saw, yeah, I think I saw that they were actually they had more points at this point last season, but more importantly, they scored like 12 more goals or something
Yeah, there was a few anomaly games last season when they scored like six, I think, against
in the
United was one of
first
them,
nine. Yeah,
and maybe seven against Southampton. Or it was a big score against Southampton as well. Um, I think it's kind of interesting because there's chat that Conte is going to come on and basically play a back three. And like Nuno was famous for playing a back three at Wolves, but he didn't implement it at Spurs because I think the chat was that the hierarchy wanted the Spurs to play the Spurs way. We'll do like inverted commas here. They wanted Spurs to play the Spurs way. So he kind of got forced down the route to playing a 4-4-2. And I think there's no way in hell the Conte is going to come in and be dictated to by hierarchy. Conte is basically going to be his own man and saying, "No, I'm playing whatever formation I want." So I think in an ironic kind of way, like everybody thought under Nuno, they were going to play this kind of back three with wing backs, and that's now what you're going to see because the fantasy community got pretty excited about say a Doherty playing right wing back or Reguilon playing left wing back, and this is what you're maybe going to see. Although it might be Emerson Royale, but he seems to prefer two strikers, and I think it'll be good to see. There's chat of maybe Kane and Son working in tandem as a two rather than a three, and I think it would be better for them. I think they'll be. I think they could be really good fantasy options if I'm being honest.
they could be, and those fixtures are good enough for me to at least go for one. So my other option is the people who are saying, Nima, when are you going to wildcard? Will you wildcard after the international break? I could always wildcard into double Spurs. My thinking was it might be better to wildcard out of them, but actually, it could be nice to just double into them and then just one free transfer from selling one of them to a United premium asset. So either go for like a Bruno Rashford or a Ronaldo or both. And that's what the Son and Kane position could be. So I could like just wild card, and then that means this week I could take like one mad punt. That's what I mean. So if I was committed to wild carding the following week or something, then I'd be like, okay, I'm gonna do something funny, get a good just player. Like this is when I get Ober and captain him, and hope for that 21 point or what everyone's got Salah kind of thing.
See, the only thing about doing that, taking a punt kind of before a kind of predetermined wildcard is
It can go so wrong, yeah.
you're forcing yourself on the wildcard, and when you're saying that you're going to wildcard, like whereas I think you take away a bit of your flexibility whenever you do that, obviously, but I think you could be aggressive too and play a wildcard under these Spurs or whatever, and this fixture swing rather than kind of waiting to kind of 14, 15, 16. But look, you're going rightly in terms of your rank, so who
Just
am I? To,
about more
who
red
am
arrows than green these days. But I think I've had 4 reds and 1 green in the last, uh, s- yeah, something like 5 weeks. It's been pretty painful.
the wildcard would be differential if you had the wildcard around kind of 14, 15, 16. Nobody's going to have their wildcard then, so it would be
Yeah, but
interesting.
random players.
It would be interesting to see what you could do with it. So I'm just gonna touch on Norwich and Leeds here, and we're gonna be pretty close to kind of wrapping up. So Norwich 1, Leeds 2, 0.75 XG for Norwich, 0.94 XG for Leeds. So the match was kind of fairly drab, and then it burst into life in the second half. Rafinha, I think he dribbled past about 3 players, and it looked like he nutmegged the keeper as well. So he's a real talent. The goal arrived at Norwich's left back side or their left flank as such, and that's been a zone where they've kind of struggled all season. So it's 4 goals and 9 starts for Rafinha, and he kind of grew under the game and he produced kind of match leading totals for goal attempts, shots in the box, crosses, successful take-ons, final third, and penalty box touches. So he had 3 shots in the box, 3 shots on target, an XG of 0.5, 2 chances created, and an XA of 0.2. And I thought what was notable about Rafinha, whenever you look at, say, like heat maps and any of these kind of popular websites on the internet, he was the highest positioned of all the kind of Leeds players, which I think it's telling that if Bamford's going to be out for any longer. Like Rafinha's basically just going to lead the line to a certain extent, or he's going to be the most aggressive kind of Leeds attacking player. Sorry, I was getting a wee bit tongue tied there. What do you think, Rafinha? Because I know some people on Twitter were talking about selling Rafinha, and I just kind of thought it was crazy.
In case Hot Dogs is watching, our good friend, we were on a Spaces and he wanted to get Ward Prowse, and I said Ward Prowse was a great pick. Obviously, if he had like a feeling about him, I said in the next 3 games, I bet he could get 20 to 25 points on a good day. Now, I didn't realize he was going to take like a full -8 for this, so he sold Diaz for Trent, which didn't work out too badly, but that's still -4. Then he sold Rafinha, who got obviously past fit for who were we talking about? He sold
Ward
Rafinha
Prowse.
for Ward Prowse, yeah, who I talked him into, and then the second one was I think Lukaku to Vardy or something like that.
It could possibly be the worst
No, to
-8
Tony,
I've
no,
ever.
something to Tony. Sorry, to Tony
I
maybe.
was the 20. It could
It was
possibly be
someone
the
to
worst
Tony.
-8 I've ever seen in my life.
We're sorry, Hot Dog. Hopefully, it will pay off over the next 2 weeks, like we were saying about the wild cards.
No, I feel bad too because somebody DM'd me on Twitter and they sent me back and forward pictures of the team or whatever, and he was looking to see. I was saying, oh, you would maybe want to work towards Son, and I think I told him to sell Ronaldo.
That's what I mean. This shit happens, right? So like, that's
It
why I
does
know
happen.
I don't want to give anyone any tips. I'm like, this is what I think. If
Aye,
you agree with my reasoning and you think the same way, then it's you who has to like move the mouse on the screen or press the button on your phone. Like, it's not me making moves for people, right? So it's
aye,
kind of like we've all got to be responsible for our own decisions. And I think some people, like we saw that crazy abuse to Differential King when
yeah.
it was like DMing him with abuse. It happens a lot in this community, but hopefully we'll see less of it.
I know. I might close my DMs. But just to touch on the kind of last game now, if you want to hit the next slide for me, Nima. So I was Aston Villa 1, West Ham 4, XG of 0.75 for Villa, and an XG of 2.64. Very impressive for West Ham. So West Ham moved up to fourth in the table on Sunday after they comfortably beat 10 man Villa 4-1. I thought the official or the refereeing was fairly atrocious in this game, if I'm being honest. There was a red card, I think, for maybe Kansa, I think, got sent off, but I think Hoss seemed to elbow somebody in the face before that, and he could have got a red card. There could have been 2 red cards in one play, So, despite scoring 4 goals at Villa Park, Antonio blinked for the third time in his last 4 matches. So, he did assist the assister on a couple of occasions, and he did register 2 goal attempts. But look, the way I'm going to play it with Antonio is I think we have to look at him for the season as a whole. And like I looked at his data before the stream, and like amongst all players, he ranks second for shots, 35, shots inside the box, 30, and XG 5.95. Now, in terms of kind of creativity, he ranks amongst forwards now, just forwards. First for key passes, 21, and first for big chances created, 5, and first for expected assists, 3.8. So I think if you look at Antonio early in the season, he overperformed, and this is basically what regression looks like. He's coming back to kind of more normal kind of production by having these couple of blanks. So all things said and done, I kind of think that options in the forward range at the minute are kind of limited. And if I was going to sell Antonio, because I know people are talking about it, I don't even know who I would buy. So I'm going to be holding. He's just behind Salah and all those kind of goal threat metrics. So over the course of the season, I'll happily play him against Liverpool. Now, I'm just going to touch on Jarrod Bowen because he was very, very impressive. So in terms of his graphic on the screen, it's 6 shots in the box, 4 on target, an XG of 1.31, 2 chances created, and an XA of 0.32. He's budget friendly at 6.3 million. So he produced a goal and an assist, 2 bonus points, and he posted kind of match leading totals for shots in the box, tackles, crosses, final third passes, and penalty box touches. So things are going well for him. I think he's going with Danny Dyer as well at the minute. Danny Dyer's daughter.
Oh, is he?
Uh, so
I was
this,
thinking
this
everyone's dating each other. What's going on, like Deli Ali and Pep's daughter as well?
so this might explain the uptick in form.
Yeah, it would. It would. I think they're saying that Blue Nick said he almost did Gallagher and Ronaldo to Foden and Jesus for a -8.
I would have been horrific, but like it's the move with Ronaldo was like, see if I had Ronaldo now, I don't think I would sell him. If I'm, it's kind of,
I know.
it would be kind of hard to sell him now, like because United could go, all right, Man City's a tougher game this weekend, but they could go on a bit of a bounce and the fixtures kind of ease after Man City. Well, they might have, do they have Chelsea to play after? Hold on, to check here. They have Man City, then they have Watford, then they have Chelsea. So really the fixtures aren't even easing. Well, 14 they've got Arsenal, I would say that's not really easing. And then Palace in game week 15. And Palace have been quite good defensively. So like you could really say that United's fixtures don't pick up until game week 16 fully. Like
So I could hold off them. That's what I mean. But if I had Ronaldo, I think I would keep him. That's the problem.
I think I would keep him because like Watford, as you say, they could get slapped up. And then Chelsea have kind of ruled their luck, I think, defensively in games. And I think maybe United could give them something on that too. Arsenal have been conceding as well, but Palace,
they'll definitely concede chances.
Palace aren't exactly a powerhouse. As good as you can look at the XGC or expected goals conceded and say, "Oh, Palace have done this and that," but they're not.
I just need to watch them, and I know that they're not going to be like top tier team straight away. They're young team as well, right? With the new additions, so there's going to be times where they're going to have little hiccups along the way, I'm sure.
Definitely. I wrote them off completely in pre-season. We should
never own one of their assets. I should clip that.
We should clip that. I said I would never own one of their assets, and I said Vera would be sacked by Christmas, and I said they would get relegated. But I'm going to kind of caveat all three of them things by saying at that stage, I think they went out after and signed a few players, like they got Gallagher and your man Mark Gahey off Chelsea, the centre back. So they did kind of make their team stronger, but it definitely has its place in like terrible FPL picks.
I should submit it. Oh my god, I should send it to one of those accounts and tag you. It would be epic if you get famous from that. You've been getting famous for the 9 green arrows in a row, but this time it's going to trump it all. Live video of you cursing Crystal. You're going to get abuse from Crystal Palace fans on football Twitter.
I bring them on. I'm ready for them.
All right, you're calling them out. Let's go, Palace fans. Let's do this. So let's I guess should we go to the transfer trends, and we're 51 minutes in, so I think we could probably do this in about 10 minutes. I'm gonna try to do this one quick and then go straight to the Twitter questions for the majority of the final half an hour or so with the live chat as well. So let's do this then. Let's before we get going, actually, I will use this time. Let's quickly just play a clip for you all while we get drinks in between the show. For anyone as well, what I want to say is thank you for the 1,500 subs. You may have noticed Ali G outfit isn't here right now, but it's because Halloween came, and when I tried to order it, I realized I couldn't get it anymore, so I had to wait till the restock. So it is coming. The outfit will come. I think I'll bring it out maybe in the stream with all 4 of us when Mariner and Gabe come back, and it will be the first time all 4 of us are together since August, and it will be November.
It's been too long.
So that's going to be crazy. Yeah, we've all done stuff, but not together. So I think that's going to be as good as when we get guests. 4 of us will be chaos.
It'll be like the Avengers kind of coming back together.
Should be fun. I think people will enjoy that. So I'm going to quickly play the clip. I was going to play the All About FPL clip, but the problem is I need to play a clip that's long enough for me to get this refill. So I think I'm going to play the grey clip one last time for my friend Nick. And I think this is because, I don't know if you're listening, Nick, but I still follow you. I'm not going to be bitter and unfollow you, but I see what he did. He thinks I'm part of some cartel where we share each other's content, and I think he's unfollowed me for that. So if that's the reason, fair play. But my DMs are still open to you because, like, I follow you and I'm not going to change that. So I'll play this clip of you one last time, but think of it at the Titanic moment. It's like my heart will go on, Nick. I'll make a song for next week to say how much I miss you, but it was great being followed by you for what little time, but it was more than I ever expected, Nick. We'll enjoy the great clip one last time and I'll get this drink. That's devastating.
Next on top.
LiveFPL.net is going to crash. Let's have a look. Oh, wow. The average and the safety score have gone way up.
Having Diesel out and then having that prick grey score, it's just like... it's ruined my fucking day, though. You get...
It's ruined my day too, to be fair.
All 10 midfielders blank, don't they? And you just know that fucking Gray's going to come along and fuck up your game week.
On a Monday night.
Except all the pricks on Twitter who've all got him. That's only people who were... 99% of people posting on Twitter tonight will have him.
All the rest will have
turned off.
Or Gameweek.
Do you know
So
what?
yeah,
I can't believe he's on Fology because I thought that this was like a great moment, that we were all kind of going to be friends for life and stuff like that. So it kind of saddens me wee heart to a certain extent that he's on Fology on Twitter. So come on, Nick,
that's
like
what I mean. It's not that
what's the
deep.
problem? What's the problem, buddy? Like, just
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 mute me.
just mute you. Yeah, just reach out and tell us what the problem is, and we can all like get together and have a cup of tea or something.
Sounds like a plan. So we'll go through the transfer trends 10 minutes and then we'll get to the live questions. So I'm going to show you the top 8 transfers in and out this week. So I get the data from Fantasy Football Fix and I write the article on Fantasy Football Hub, which will be coming back. So anyone who wants those memberships as well, they are in our YouTube description. So check it out and it will give us a bit of kickback to help hopefully at least make the show cover its own costs rather than be at a loss. But we'll get there. The YouTube ads at 1K now, they're going to hopefully sustain at least the streaming side and hopefully the podcast side will get sponsored someday. Some manscaping. We'll get Mariner to talk about the shaving his balls. I'm sure he'd love to do that on air.
That would certainly increase a follower quite.
I think so, just to hear him say it. So, in terms of the players, then, for anyone watching at home who can't see the screen, so James is the most transferred in with Smith Rowe, Gallagher, Ramsdale, Chilwell, Livramento, Ronaldo, and Hwang. And the most transferred out players this week so far are Alonso, Kovacic, Raya, Sarr, Mount, Pogba, Azpilicueta, and Lukaku. So, it looks like the market this week is kind of calmed down compared to last week, I would say. So there's a lot less transfers. There's like 300,000 in, 250,000 for Smith Rowe, 100,000 for Gallagher, and everything else is quite low. On the way out, there's 2 above 100k transfers out, and everything else is pretty low numbers. So this is not like any of the weeks we've seen so far yet this season, and it kind of leans towards what you were saying about I think the people who were going to transfer already did it. They like missed the price drop and caught the price rise, and everyone else now looks like it's kind of slowed down right to a halt, and they're all waiting for the games tomorrow night and Wednesday night and Thursday night before a Friday deadline. So there's going to be an intense week, I think, and I don't think we'll see the market pick back up, and this could look very different. The top transfers in and out by the end of the UCL game. Sorry.
I'm surprised that so few have sold Raya. I thought Raya would have had higher ownership than that. Now he's out for maybe 4 months or something like. He's
I mean, these are the people who are late to selling him from the week before. I bet if we
right.
look at the old Compass show last week, I bet
Oh,
it'll be some like
right. Okay.
disgusting number who will have sold him.
It's hard to believe that many people own Kovacic. Why would you own Kovacic?
There's some people on FPL Twitter who have him too, not just the casuals.
Crazy.
I know. So we'll go to the top 10, top 10 transfers of all positions. And then what we normally do for anyone who's listening on podcast is look at the diagram that kind of from Fix shows you like a really nice, I guess, I don't know what to call it. Sometimes it just looks like a clusterfuck. Other times it looks like a shape. But this one, top 10, so the 3 most common moves so far. So there's Sarr to Smith Rowe, Raya to Ramsdale, and Diaz to James. But the graph just looks crazy, and James and Smith Rowe are basically in the middle. And then there's Ramsdale, as you said, for the Raya owners. So someone actually asked earlier in the show, is the line from a goalkeeper's position this week for the Trent just to Ramsdale? And it is almost to Ramsdale. So I'll read out the other common kind of scenarios as well before I move on to forwards. So we also have Azpilicueta to James is a popular move, Alonso to James, Rafinha to Smith Rowe, Marcal to James, Ben Rama to Smith Rowe, Laporte to James, Gray to Smith Rowe. So you can kind of see that really the top 10 transfers in is basically just dominated by James, Smith Rowe, Ramsdale. There's no one else really being brought in so far this week. So it is very much chasing the points of the prior week, I think. The forwards line, this is a bit more interesting. There's still people coming to Tony. He's one of the most transferred in. But there is also some kind of Hwang moves that are coming in. And I think he had the offside goal today. And if he'd scored that, I'd be panicking because I think he'd then start getting past like 6 mil, 6.2 mil. And I don't want to have to rush on that guy. Like if I want to downgrade Vardy or Antonio, Hwang is somewhere I would look. And after today, I'm now wondering whether with the extra information, would I consider Jimenez for a bit more if I didn't need the funds? So those thoughts are both creeping in. I think if I had Jimenez or Hwang now, I would happily hold them for the coming fixtures. What are your thoughts?
I'll just look at I'll just get the fixtures up here. So in terms of Wolves, you're talking about we've got Palace away, West Ham at home, Norwich away, Burnley at home. So over the next 4, they do appeal. Huang looks good value, if I'm being totally honest. But my comment on this graph is that the amount of transfers to Tony really don't make sense to Tony's production. Tony's production hasn't been good at all, and
He rose 0.3 million after 3 blanks.
I know Jordy or Jackie 10 on FPL, so Jordy van der Laan, he commented about this, and my thinking on this was that because Tony dropped below his base price was like 6.5 starting price, because he dropped it like 6.3, I think the gains to bring him back to 6.5 are quite easy.
I don't like
But
players going below, their starting price.
no. So like now he's at 6.6 and he has rose at 0.3 in a couple of weeks, and you're thinking he's not actually doing anything. Like, he's kind of looking alright in games. The fixture run's great. I've bought him. I've kind of started thinking recently, like, was this like a bad game for Brentford, or are Brentford going to become a bit championship style and maybe kind of flattery deceive over these kind of good fixtures?
But there's all kinds of lines I've seen. So apparently someone was saying that their style is really suited to the Premier League, and that's why they've kind of done so well since they come up. And they're saying that actually maybe in the games where it's more of a championship kind of game, maybe they'll struggle more against worse opposition.
I've heard that been mentioned too. So I have
Which
the double up. They've obviously got Norwich, so like you can't move either.
I've
of
only
them.
got Tony, but I'm thinking there's no way I'd be bringing Mabuemo now yet this week. And then by after the Norwich game, I'll know how important it is to bring him in. Or I could go to like a Gallagher or a Cornet, like you were saying. They're looking quite interesting, and they're at the lower end of the differential spectrum for now. Well, not
Aye.
Gallagher, but Cornet is, that's for sure.
Vardy is kind of shipping up an ownership going by your graph there, and I think it's crazy to see him before Leeds.
I think so. So there's Antonio to Tony is the top one, Vardy to Tony, and Smith, not Smith Rowe, bloody Saint Maximan to
Uh,
Huang. Yeah, so those are the top three in the forward position this week. I'll go to the mids quickly as well, just as we work our way through. So in the midfield position, it's a bit more kind of clear. There's only really Smith Rowe and Gallagher being purchased. No one else is being signed in the entire game. So that's the top 10 moves for mids. The players being sold, though, just for anyone who's listening on the podcast, they're kind of Sarr, Rafinha, Benrahma, Gray, Kovacic, Townsend, Greenwood. So they're all being sold for just either Smith Rowe or Gallagher.
Crazy. It's understandable because this is what we're seeing. These guys now kind of look, they've separated themselves as being maybe the best kind of value picks and around that price point. Like, but I do think that all the players at this price, including these two, Smith Rowe and Gallagher, I think they'll have their day in the sun, but also think they'll be kind of frustrating to own in certain respects. Like how high can your expectations be of like a 5.5 kind of roughly priced midfielder? It's
That's exactly what it comes down to. I think we were expecting players like even Rafinha at 6.5 million to haul in every half. So it's like he's had one double-digit haul, I think, and I was very upset to be robbed of the other one that he lost. Was it Omar Bombadeli? I think tackled him, and that tackle he made right at the end of the game was what took him to 3 bonus points and took Rafinha from 3 to 2 bonus points. And then Rafinha missed it by like just 1 BPS in the system. And I was like, this is disgusting. Like, robbed of his second double digit haul like that.
He got the goal, didn't he, on Mabamba Dele? He plays for Ireland. He made his debut for us recently in qualifiers. Like, he's looked quite decent in the national team, I have to say.
So just on the defenders then, before we go on. So the kind of top 3 moves here are Diaz to James, Azpilicueta to James, Alonso to James. The rest of the moves are either to James mainly, a couple of Chilwells, and 1 Marcal to Livramento is the 10th most popular defensive move. The players being sold, they kind of include Aspi, Cancelo, Diaz, Laporte, even Duffy's being sold for James. So that one I don't know if I would do. I would just play Duffy this week against Newcastle, but each to their own. Some might be wildcarding or freeing up funds, but it's not my kind of move. I don't really think there's much more to say about the defenders because it's basically people just buying James.
Yeah.
So going into the goalkeepers, this is the most simple graphic ever. It's like a little penis, and it's just Raya going inside Ramsdale. So top 10 goalkeeper transfers going across FPL. My job is to see how much I can make you laugh till you cry, like when Nick made you cry. So you got Raya to Ramsdale, Schmeichel to Ramsdale. There's a couple of Sanchez purchases. There's someone selling Raya to Sanchez. Sanchez himself is being sold for Ramsdale. Gate is being brought in, so whoever that is, fair play, because who got the assist, Tom will tell you it's a painful thing, and it's been part of what's ruined him this season. Lloris is being sold, Sarr is being sold, and Fernandez is being sold. But Fernandez is also being signed. So it's funny to see that. I think I love seeing that element where there's some people who are thinking Sanchez is a great pick. Some people are thinking, I own him, he's kind of shit. And same thing with Fernandez. Even more so with Fernandez, I would say. Like, that's such a weird move. Like, why would I be doing Raya to Fernandez this week? Like, I guess
Ramsdale's
if
going to have pretty big EO, isn't he? Really, like coming into these weeks, because he was sitting maybe around 30% anyway. But you would expect him maybe he may
after
start
these pictures, yeah.
maybe 50-60%. So like the whole benching and move that like you talked before about kind of using EO kind of they make your decisions to a certain extent in terms of like kind of covering your ass, I suppose. And if I thought I was going to be up against like 60% of Ramsdale kind of last week, I probably wouldn't have done what I did, if I'm being totally honest with you. But no, we'll move on to kind of the Twitter questions, will we?
I think so. We'll probably try to cover these quick fire in like 15 minutes max, and
Yeah,
then
go for
try to
it.
do another, or maybe even 10 minutes, and then we do 10 minutes, 15 minutes live Q&A, and we start to try and keep the podcast under 90 minutes, because that would be nice to fit it in with all the other matchup show that's coming and the net XG stuff that obviously we're very proud to see the lads have created. The net XG, yeah, go and net that haul.
Their own metric.
I
There was
know,
a
loving, well, great work from them, right?
amazing.
I think anyone who's not checked it out, we've put it in the channel now under a kind of metrics intro videos and FDR intro videos. So we're going to start doing like kind of shorter video on demand content going forwards as well, like kind of 6 to 10 minute videos or 15-minute videos. So things like transfer trends, they might become their own section, a bit more fleshed out, or they might be similar for FDR with Mariner. Like there'll be other things as well, I think. So I'm considering doing one Hibbo, and I wonder what the kind of listeners think. Do message us feedback after if you think it's a good idea. Is where it's like just half an hour, and it's just a live Q&A. So any one of the four of us who's available at the time, it might just be one of us. Even if you're lucky, there might be two of us. We'll come on, and whoever comes on at that time for that 20-30 minutes will kind of answer your questions live. And it can be like last minute RMTs for the week. It won't be like a deadline stream. We're not going to obviously try to compete with some of the big boys like that, like Andy and all these guys. But it'll be like randomly in the week, so it'll be like an Easter egg as well. So let us know the feedback. You won't know when it is. It won't be the same time every week. It will just be like a Twitter Spaces, but on YouTube. Randomly, we'll go live for half an hour to answer your questions. One of us.
I think it would be nice to maybe we could put out a poll or something and maybe get people's opinions on the channel to see what kind of content they want to see. I think it would be about an idea to kind of tap
That's a
onto
good
that.
idea. Yeah, let us know, because we are looking to make more, and whatever you guys find most interesting, I think we'll probably put more time into that.
Definitely. Right, let's
Yeah,
get
let's
on
go
it.
to the questions. There's
Yeah.
there's two, by the way, that can't be quick fire. So we've got the ones from FPL Teacher, and they're a bit more difficult to answer in
Right,
quick fire.
okay. So this is Blue Nick CFPL. He was on the live chat. I'm not sure if he's still on. So any fixture stroke differentials you like this game week? They attack the top 100k, or is it best they roll a free transfer ahead of the IEB? I was 0.1 short of Tierney to James. Switch with 0.6. So that's a bit of a pain in there. I'm just looking at his team here. He's got Gaida and goal, Tierney, Livramento, Chilwell, Salah, Gallagher, Havertz, Rafinha, Armstrong, Ronaldo, Tony, Cancelo, Trent Arnold, and Twitter prick Gray. I think he should roll. If I'm being totally honest, that's and if in that position, I think I would roll the transfer. If he could have got the James, I would have went to James. But I think the other thing that he could do is if he really likes Chelsea, he could go to maybe Rudiger if he has the money for double up. And
Yeah, I could go for that. That could be talked into that. I think poor Jones bloke, he's saying he brought in Fernandez for Raya last week, and he already slightly regrets it. You never know, man. Unai Emery might be the manager at Newcastle pretty soon, and things could look better.
definitely.
Chris is saying he'll do the kind of RMT in his mask. Happy, evil, clown, all kinds of masks. We'll keep going through the questions. So we've got Bear LFC Bear 2021 on Twitter. Is Ben Rama to Cornet a viable option? I guess based on what we were saying earlier, I would say go back to the timestamp when the Burnley game is if you're watching back, Bear, and you'll hear what we think about Cornet. But for a quick fire answer while we're here, Kibbo, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think you could. Well, you could do Cornet, but like I do like kind of Gallagher and ESR maybe around that price point. maybe more than Cornet, if I'm being totally honest with you. His minutes seem to be a wee bit hit or miss, so I would be more inclined to go for one of those two and save the money as well.
There's a great one from FPL teacher at FPL_Senate. So there's 3 parts to it. Do you embrace or try to eliminate your biases initially? And then try explaining how you deal with these biases in FPL. So there's confirmation bias, trusting XG that supports players you own. Recency bias, last game week influences your decision the most. Hindsight bias, Salah Hall predictable in quotation marks for the podcast listeners, only after it happens.
You can start this one.
So I think I love to play into them. Like I know half of these people that ITKs their news is fake and they're just like making educated lineups and getting it right, and then they're always pulling in for lineups that they don't have. And the reality is, if I see them say my player is starting, I take a leaf out of your book, and boy, can you believe I'll believe them. I'll be like, great, that means he's starting. When they told me Ronaldo is starting and taking pens, I was like, yeah, I'll captain him. They said he's taking pens. Turns out the ITKs don't know what they're saying. It's just educated guesses. But anyway, that's just confirmation bias on that scale. That's for lineups. But in terms of actual XG, which he's asked, I like to combine it with the eye test. So like, there's certain numbers I look for, but generally, like, it's kind of stuff like shots in the box, big chances created. Those are like the main numbers I personally look at. That's about it, and maybe a heat map, see roughly where they were, and try to watch highlights or watch a game. I watch a lot of matches, so it's a combination. I'd say, like, if it is confirmation bias, it's more just the fact that I'm letting too much eye test to get into it, because I'm not like a great football coach or analyst like someone like Gabriel. So at the end of the day, like, I'm bringing my bias of like who I like to watch. So I'd say that's what I do. Is so my thing is a kind of combination of the first two, confirmation and recency. Because if I've seen something recently and I thought a player looked good and they look confident, and in interviews they were speaking well and they didn't have the time of their lives, I mean, I want to watch them. They look happy. They're going to do great. And I'll kind of hold them, and I don't mind if they blank. And I just enjoy the thrill. I like watching them. It's why I might buy someone like Lamperty if the time comes in the coming weeks. He's someone I got my eye on. And I'm sure you'll have some thoughts about him. But I don't kind of let recency bias affect my decisions. Like someone like, say, Mount, when he brought in the points, 23 was it? People were mass going towards him, and it's unlucky that he didn't start. Like, obviously that's an illness related thing, but at the end of the day, like, that's not something I would ever do from my play style. So the last game week doesn't like make me make that decision. I went for Foden because I wanted him 2 weeks before. I was priced out. It just felt like this was the time to finally get him. And I think the hindsight bias part, I think before the Lukaku injury, I was going to captain Salah. I didn't have Lukaku at the time. And I remember telling you I was quite gutted actually that all happened, because then kind of everyone got Salah. And that kind of rise that could have been from the 3 goals and an assist, there was nothing that spectacular. It was just back to red arrows that I get these weeks. What do you do? Do you eliminate these biases? Like, I eliminate them in the sense that I combine stuff. So I combine eye test and stats. So I don't just look at XG as good. But if I like a player and how they look with my eye, I'll look up stats that show they're good. So like, I'll look up 10 stats. If none of them are bad, I'll be like, oh, but they like make the most touches in the opposition third. Like, I'll find a random stat that just makes me feel better about the player I want to play or captain or bench.
I think I can be guilty of confirmation bias to a certain extent. Like what you're talking about, say, like these kind of on the nose that you see on Twitter posting, like player X is going to start today. And like I'll use that at times to say, look, happy enough to keep Rafinha. He maybe doesn't have the information anyway. He maybe did have the information anyway. But I can use that to kind of feed under my own confirmation bias and say, well, that's grand. I'm going to keep him and I'm not going to transfer him out this week. But in terms of kind of using, like if you're talking about, say, recency bias, as you touched on kind of Mount, I think there's a fine line where, like, you could talk about, oh, that Mount has scored well. If you bring him in, that's recency bias or whatever. But surely any player that's kind of confident in scoring goals is going to be performing well recently. So you're going to bring some of these players in at some point. Now, what I would do is, what I've started doing differently this year is I'm looking at data across a bigger set. So I'm maybe looking at combining kind of, like when I done my pieces in Man City and my pieces in Chelsea, I looked at data from this season and included, say, last season or when Tuchel got the job. And I think looking at kind of data over a larger kind of data set has kind of helped me make better FPL decisions. Just to touch on the hindsight bias one, Salah Hall predictable only after it happens. I think the Salah Hall probably was predictable because United have been fairly terrible. And Liverpool, when you look at the data kind of from this year and last season, like Liverpool are like basically the best attack in the league. So there was a chance of that happening. But I do think I never go down the route of kind of hindsight posts on Twitter. I know a lot of people were doing that in the week just past with the whole Havertz thing. I would never like publicly like kind of call out somebody's move and say, oh, in hindsight, that move was crap or anything like that. But I do think I'm guilty of all three of them, but at the same time, I can use my kind of analytical skills to kind of eliminate some of them at certain times as well. Like at the minute I'm saying about Tony, like see like Tony's like non-paying XG. I own him. It's not been good. Do you know? So like I'm not going to start looking at some kind of marginal stat in Tony to kind of like convince myself that I'm right. Like instead I talk to you and say, I own 2 Brentford attackers and I don't really know why. You know, I'll be a bit more upfront about it, whereas like I don't try and kind of always defend my picks.
Chris says so. Mariners here is always will come and net that haul. He calls all his own moves crap in hindsight. That's his hindsight bias. He regrets every move he makes. So I want to go through these questions. So this one was from FPL Teacher last week, and he sent it in like at 11:15 p.m. or something. So like halfway through the show, so we never got around to it. This one will be quick fire though, like we were.
Definitely quick fire.
So who would you put in your 11? You have to have 3 Chelsea, 3 Liverpool, 3 City, and then the other 2 positions are up to you.
3 Chelsea, James Chilwell. Yeah, they have to have 3. James Chilwell. James.
So you could just you could say James Chilwell, and then you can say it's his choice, and then you can say like which 3 Liverpool, which 3
Liverpool.
The main one is which are the other 2 that you would want?
Liverpool, Salah, Trent, or Locks. Maybe Jota. Well, Mane, but you couldn't really buy Mane because he's a bit too expensive. I find.
Yeah, because we're not gonna. Whatever we're telling you, teacher, send it. It's not gonna be like potentially within the 100 mil budget. We'll tell you the players we would pick, but I'll be picking expensive players.
You could pick Mane, but like Mane's not a realistic pick that I would recommend to people at the minute because of the moves that we have talked about earlier on the show. Like I don't really think then I can recommend the moves that have suggested, and then turn around and say I think you should buy Mane as well. So just Trent and Salah probably, and then in Man City I would go to 3. I have Diaz, Cancelo, and Foden, and I know a lot of people are going to jump off the kind of double Man City defence. I think it was about a kind of bad variance game week, if I'm being totally honest with you. And I think going forward, Man City will go through this kind of money run. I think we'll tighten up, if I'm being totally honest, because the data suggests is what I'm talking about eliminating recency bias. Look at Man City's data for the last, and I know Marner's big on these data. Look at it from now to the start of last season. Man City are just elite defensively in this league. Like, so I don't think they're going to keep busting clean sheets the way they have been, if you know what I mean. So would you consider rolling with it for the next 46 game weeks? I'm not sure what he means there.
If you had that team. So if you then made the team that you just read out, you got to say who your 2 players are that are not from Man City, Liverpool, Chelsea.
Antonio, Ramsdale.
And those would be your other 2. Okay, yeah. And then, so would you then keep that team for 4 to 6 weeks?
I wouldn't have 3 Chelsea and 3 Liverpool and 3 Man City, I don't think.
No, neither would I. I guess you said which ones. Would you target Man United as a fixture like Norwich, Burnley, Leeds, Newcastle?
No. Because this is obviously last week's question, and like I think what we're going to see from Solskjaer now is what we touched on. I think he's going to set up to be like kind of 5 at the back, defensive, and try and play in the counter, which is what he did against Spurs. So, you know, they had 4 shots against Spurs, and I think they scored 3 goals, which was.
And there's a nice philosophical question before we go to the quick fire. So, educate listeners on how to follow or filter content creators' advices. So, what I would say is, any content creator you're watching who's giving you advice, you should stop there, because that, for me, I don't watch content for advice. Like, I watch it for entertainment. I watch a lot of shows. I go to live chats. I do what everyone here who's watching us live and kindly joining us is doing too. So, you know, I do the spaces. Like, I'm even doing one this Wednesday, right? At 10 p.m. with Ken Wynne Jones, a former Premier League striker. And It's so crazy. Me and Dagger FC are hosting it. It's 10 p.m. I'm flying to Barcelona. I got to leave the house at like 3 a.m. that Wednesday morning.
What?
So Thursday morning. So yeah, I'm going away this Thursday. International break. No Compass show next Monday. Come back with the Addy G outfit after a week in Barcelona. Like
Oh, what?
I'm looking. I haven't been abroad for like 2 years. I've been around the UK, but I'm looking to
Barcelona's
get
amazing.
out of
Are
here.
you going to a match?
No, I don't think so. It'll be international break, right? But
Right. You could do a
yeah,
stadium tour.
I've done it before though. Like I
Right.
think, yeah, I'm looking to just go and have the best time. I'm even gonna use up like the hotel gym because I'm gonna use that to kickstart back into my winter fitness journey now that sun sets at like 4:30 p.m. It's
Very
cold
nice.
and miserable outside. Yeah.
Very nice. Very nice. So
But yeah,
how
just on that note, sorry. So that's why I say you should filter it. So the main point before my tangent was that I only watch stuff for entertainment and like it is fun. And sometimes I ask, what do you think about my team? Like, would you do this? Would you do that? I'm seeking that confirmation bias, as you say, or an alternative is I'm seeking another viewpoint. And I want them to tell me why, just so I can try and understand their viewpoint and decide, does that change my viewpoint? And yeah, I want debate, I want conversation, but we're all in this community because we just want to talk to like-minded people. And for me, like I think the filtering side of it is if you find people are like negatively impacting on your headspace, muting is the best way. I don't really block anyone because I think when he blocks people, like it kind of gives them satisfaction, and like that's not really something I'm about. So I'd rather mute them and never see what they say than try and block them unless they're like kind of overtly racist. So how would you educate listeners? Because I don't think that's my point. I don't think they need educating. Like I think we're all here because we love it. We're all very different personalities. Like we love chatting about FPL with our friends, and I hope that's what kind of the guest episodes have been like. And I'm not like looking for like a buy, sell, hold advice. Like
no.
we're not the Twitter. We're not like the kind of the casuals who are on Twitter, right? Like, and
Like
just MB, they beat us. The casuals do beat us. So I'm not condescending to the casuals. I'm just saying that there are casuals out there.
I think basically surround yourself with people that you like having FPL conversations with. I know that sounds a bit philosophical, but they're like I talked earlier in the show about noise around Reece James and like during the week and like people chatting about he's gonna get rested and Christensen and Aspilicueta are gonna play and all. Move yourself away from that kind of stuff. Like if you're hearing that kind of stuff in the community, move yourself away from it and talk to people that you like to talk about with your team. Like you, I can bounce ideas back and forth with like you, Marner, Gabe, FPL Matthew, back on the horse. There's loads of people that I'll DM, Praz FPL. There's loads of people that I'll DM personally about my own team. But surround yourself with people that you want to talk to about your team. And how would you filter out content and content creators' advice? Work out who the good ones are and make a list would be a good piece of advice that I would say to you. Like I have a list which I call like Hibbo's FPL Gold, and I've got like Adam Hopcroft on it. I've got like a U on it. I've got Tom Freeman on it, Tom Stevenson, and I basically have like a Hall of Fame list within my Twitter, so that whenever I'm searching up and down through it, I see conversations like Lid Raisers on it, Big Man Backyard, and then you start to see the good advice rather than people that are talking this old shit that you don't want to hear.
I'm
You know,
just
so
laughing because Marin has just realized about being unfollowed by Nick. Some of what I got blocked by him, but it's not that deep. It's not a blocking. Like we're not got any. I've never sent him anything horrible, so I don't think he'd go that far to block me. Hopefully, I've not sent anything tonight for that. But I guess just going into the final couple of RMTs we got as well. So Malcolm Brown, 53 on Twitter, he says, was his wild card bad luck or bad picks? So he got 32 when he submitted this. He had Huang to go, but Huang only got 2, I think. So that's 34 points all out.
he could have done me Rafinha on there, but I don't think
Who would you have got rid of? Jota?
I don't mind Jota as a pick. If I'm
But this
being
was
total,
on wild card, right?
this was all wildcard, I think. But Rafinha had Norwich this week, so and we heard the sound bites that he was
He
fit to
was
play.
fit, yeah,
He
and
was
I'd be
fit.
on wild card. Yeah, I would have gone for Rafinha maybe, but
I would have gone
that
for
part is unlucky.
that
And
part's
Jota
not lucky.
then, and because as in the part of it is unlucky, is that Jota then got benched and subbed on for 1 point, I think, or is
Aye.
that what? So that's just unlucky. Yeah. Most people had Mabuemo on the team, and then Livramento came on, and unfortunately for Paul Malcolm, it went the other way.
I'm going to say overall his team's solid and just kind of going forward. I think he is going to pick up. Like if I'm being totally honest.
So we've got Vardy boys as well. So 2 free transfers, 2.8
Right,
million in the
okay.
bank. Probably just going to use one and roll, like we're saying, to have 2 after the international break. So he's saying Mark to James. Obviously, Mark on his bench at the moment in the bus team. So I don't know if I'd do it if I'm not going to who would you then bench?
I'll
And
bench
then,
Cancelo.
yeah, okay. I like that. Rafinha to Foden, Antonio to Vardy, or Rudiger to James.
I would go Martial to James from that and roll the second transfer.
I would keep Rudiger. Yeah, I wouldn't get rid of Rudiger.
No,
That's for sure.
I
I'd
definitely
double
wouldn't
up.
sell Rudiger. I think there's an argument that double Chelsea. I know a few weeks ago everybody was saying, "Oh, double Man City's all their age," and then double Chelsea has continued to be their age. And I think Rudiger's a nice kind of solid pick to balance off like a more aggressive kind of pick. So he can move to James, he can move to Chilwell. I'm assuming he's not. I'm assuming he's not going to Chilwell already. So you could wait and see what happens with the UCL and see who plays against Malmo. But there is that argument, like we were talking about earlier in the show, that Chilwell doesn't cameo really as much. James tends to cameo, but you're more likely maybe to get the Liverpool water sub if you were to go Chilwell, but basically watch him midweek. But Martial to
I
James,
wouldn't do Antonio to Vardy either,
no
personally.
chance. I would keep Antonio.
Yeah,
I
I
think
would.
I think Antonio will come good.
So we've got the Vindra Raj. What to do with Rafinha and Vardy? Hold or sell, and we've got people buying Vardy, obviously. So it's such stark contrasts.
Rafinha's an automatic hold.
I think so. I would maybe sell him for Sun though after the international break if they look great against Everton and the new manager settles in after that. And
I'm not selling Rafinha at all. No way.
okay, it's like the spaces I was on; they were not selling him either.
I'm
They were
definitely not
speaking me
selling
into
Rafinha.
keeping him, but I can't keep Vardy and not sell Rafinha. So if I sold Vardy, I could then upgrade Saka to Son and keep Rafinha. That's the alternative. But because I've got Wildcard, my thinking is I'm looking at Leeds. I don't see none of those first teamers back. I'm seeing the short-term fixtures, and I'm thinking, is that where I go then? So I attack that, and it was what I was saying about Son and a 4.4 mil and playing the back four where I rotate Livramento White and then Wildcard out of it when I need to save myself when it comes to the United swing. But that could be a way. I might have to sell Saka and Rafinha after the international break and just get Son.
I just to touch my point for Raj. I'm potentially going to sell Vardy next week. Not this week. Like I'm definitely going to bank a transfer, but I could either go Vardy to Kane with 2 transfers. I could go Vardy to downgrade for funds, or I could keep Vardy. They'll be like me 3 options next week. So I'm kind of remaining open. I know he's got Leeds. I think he's going to do well against Leeds potentially.
I would
And
keep
then
him for Leeds. If he looks bad against Leeds, though, then I'm
if he does
feeling
bad
much
against
more
Leeds,
likely to sell. Yeah,
I'm going to sell him if he does bad against Leeds. That's just the way it is.
it is. And what about Anthony? I think this is the last question before we go to the 5 minutes of live questions. So, is Chilwell or James a priority transfer in this game week? And he actually references that quote you were saying that Tom Physio has put out there as well, which is we had the reason. It was not because we were unhappy with Chilwell, but we opted for more size to defend set pieces. And that's what happened last time when they played Burnley and he played Alonso. And you were saying Chilwell did the pre-match presser today. So it looks like he's probably playing in the Champions League tomorrow against Malmo. I would not be surprised either if Alonso started this weekend.
There was a bit of discussion under this kind of thread or under this tweet on Twitter, and people were talking about. They said that he said the same thing before Brentford, and Chilwell played. But I think there's a guy, Matt Halliday, on Twitter, and he came on and said, I think that match Rudiger didn't play, and that basically he only plays Alonso if he's got Rudiger to cover his arse, because Rudiger plays maybe that left side centre back or whatever. So he says, like, I wouldn't read too much into the fact that he maybe said it before Brentford and Chilwell still started. So I think the big kind of clue for us this week is, like, I could have jumped to Chilwell last night. I did fancy doing days to Chilwell. I had a few cans of Heineken sitting on the house. I started to get a wee bit of fucking drunk and looking at my phone and thinking I could just pull the trigger. Tom Stevenson was actually fucking DMing me, and he was saying, because he saw me commenting on the timeline, he was saying, I'm kind of interested in the move myself, and I think the two of us kind of talked each other down off the bridge, and we just says, no, we'll save the transfer, or we'll wait to see him midweek. And really, that's the advice that I ever give people. Wait and see what team they put out in the UCL. If Chilwell starts in the UCL, you don't want to be jumping on them. If James or somebody's rested, again, it would be a good buy, I think, for Burnley.
I think so. Joe Brackett says that Vardy has good fixtures post Chelsea.
He does.
He
Ben
does.
Crell's very
He
keen.
does.
Ben
Ben's
Crell's
keeping him, right?
Ben's keeping him. Ben's very keen at the minute. So he was kind of quite shy. He was quite defensive at Chilwell. And he kind of doesn't really understand why people are jumping off. So I can see Ben's point, and that's why I want to save a transfer and kind of keep myself flexible.
Of course. So let's guys, while we're here, we're 1 hour 30. This might be one of the shortest streams in a while. We'll try go for 5 minutes max. Do send in any kind of questions you have, any transfers you're thinking of, anything in the live chat. I will accept Joe's comment as a question for now, just while we wait for more questions to come in. So he's going to be, or he or she, or they're going to be lobbying for me to get blocked starting tonight. So I think that's about trigger lips. So we'll see how that one goes. I think Mariner missed it. He wants to get blocked with the rest of the pricks from Twitter with a 1. So the first real questions coming as well from Joe. So Smith Rowe or Buemo?
This week, Boomo, long term, ESR.
I like that. I think because I've got Saka, I wouldn't really be, when I do downgrade, I don't really want to, I don't know if I want to go to Smith Rowe. I was thinking to go to Mbuemo. Now I'm thinking to dodge Mbuemo. So as I was saying, because I already have Tony, I don't know if Joe already has Tony. So I'm now thinking to avoid the double up. Obviously, I think the double up's great against Norwich, but after what happened last game, I'm a bit worried whether that was just a blip in the road or like long term.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so I think I'll just dodge him. But I think it depends what your team looks like. That's the issue, Joe. I would personally, I prefer Smith Rowe long term. They're looking at your new cell door behind you as well. So
That's my kitchen. That's my new kitchen, man.
is that an oven or a fridge or something I see behind you?
That's an oven there.
Okay, nice. So we've got one question is Chris Lansdowne. I'm just putting this on to tease you while the podcast listeners can't see the trolling we're putting up with. We have one from Ramanathan as well. Are there any other good mids to replace Traore with outside of Smith Rowe, Cornet, and Seagal? Who's Seagal?
Conor Gallagher.
Okay, it sounds I've never seen it referred to as that.
all those guys are better options than Traore. Do you know? So like,
But any other ones outside of those 3?
No, I would think I'm kind of limited in my headspace and what I think I like in that kind of price point. And ESR and Conor Gallagher for me are kind of starting to look like they're tearing or pulling away from the rest of them in terms of being good value. So I think either one of them, ESR,
ESR and Livramento rotate well as well. So if you didn't
they
want to
do.
so if you didn't want to do the Livramento white rotation, then maybe you've got Ramsdale already. So in that scenario, I would be considering. That's why I'm wondering whether I want Smith Rowe long term, as you say. We've got one more question, and then we'll get out of here. So I'll leave this one for you because I know you're in a mini league with the man himself.
Shane Duffy. Thoughts. I wonder when I'm going to be playing him. I must be playing him at some point soon. So thoughts on starting Shane Duffy at home to Newcastle ahead of Cancelo away to Man United. Could we see Zinchenko and Walker in the fullback positions for the United game? Cancelo's maybe due a rest at some point because he hasn't had one yet since I've owned him, and I'm waiting to be disappointed by him at some point. Regardless of the rest, I think there's an argument that you would start Duffy at home to Newcastle ahead of Cancelo. What do you think? I think I would make that play.
It's difficult. So what would you say to someone like me then, where I could bench Cancelo for a Livramento at home to Villa or a Ben White home to Watford? Because when I check on the algos don't rate that.
Say that again.
So like stuff like Trent or benching Trent or benching Cancelo. If I bench them for a White or Livramento, it doesn't really the algos don't really show like it's a gain. It's always like 1 or 2 points worse off.
I would never bench Trent, but I could.
I've seen Trent benched. I can't believe it, but I've seen it. But what about so Cancelo? Because you just said he could bench Cancelo for Duffy, right?
I would nearly consider benching Cancelo for Duffy. Like on my team this week, I'm benching Diaz
Yeah, so that's what I mean. There, so I think people who I've seen benching Diaz for Duffy, I've seen that, and I've seen
Cancelo's
Cancelo
obviously
starting.
got more. He's got more upside.
Uh,
He's got a couple of avenues where he can really hurt you because he can score a goal, and he can get an assist or something like that. But Duffy's got a lot of goal threat, and Newcastle are fairly fucking shit. So there's a chance that he could pop up by a head or two at the same time if he does
so you
play.
just rate him more in that fixture and as a player than say like Livramento or White. Like I would still play, as you say, Cancelo probably over Livramento and White personally.
I think so.
Yeah, I think so. I've benched him. Like, what's the worst that could happen? Just some points on the bench.
I think, like, if you're looking at how United are thinking about how United are going to line up, we think they're going to go with this back five again, and it's possible that the game could be stalemate. It's possible that it could be 0-0. Do you know, like Man City, like they can blow hot or cold at times, and if United come out and just try and be, I don't know, defensive and a wee bit counter attacky or whatever, then there's every chance that the game could be stalemate. So you might want to cover your arse in terms of EO in case
I
there
think
is
so. Yeah.
if there is a clean sheet, it could hurt you more. But by the same token, having that Brighton cover because Brighton ownership is going to be fairly big, I would imagine this
Because
week.
that's the thing. Because I've got Sanchez in my mind, it's like I'm okay. I don't
Mm.
really mind because that can't harm me. The only thing that can happen is Duffy points against me, as you say,
Well,
and I'm hoping they even out. Like
I think that's an important point for Anthony is if he has Sanchez, he's got 100% cover of Brighton defence. I don't know who his goalkeeper is, but
I
he
guess
could.
his main point was could we see Zinchenko or Walker play instead? But I think because Cancelo can play on both sides, like I don't see him being benched. Famous last words.
Famous last words. I'll not comment on him being benched. He's due a benching at some point, I think.
He is. He's played 90 every week so far or something. What do you think then about this last question from Sagar then? So Sagar Chalwani says, with the Conte news, is jumping on Sun urgent or should we wait a week or two? And should he sell Rafinha to get to Sun? And then we'll cut it from there.
Everton are bad, but at the same time, I spoke earlier in the stream and said like Spurs are joint worst for shots, I think, so far this season. So offensively, they haven't been putting it on. I think Kane looked as if he had down tools because he hasn't got his transfer that he wanted. So these boys are obviously going to get a bit more of a bounce with like a new manager coming on the door. I would wait and I would wait until game week 12 if I'm being totally honest, despite the fact that I think Everton are particularly poor at the minute. Their defence looks a bit of a shambles, and it would fancy Spurs, Kane, and Son to maybe get returns this week. But it depends how. Like, do you have to rip up your team to do it? If you have to take a -4 or something to do it, I would be kind of inclined to
If
say,
it's Rafinha to Sun free transfer, like you could be tempted, right? Like, and you had two free transfers and you roll the other one. Like, if you had a great team and that was the only fire, yeah, great. But my problem is, I think surely you have other fires than Rafinha this week, and I think just that extra week of info, the international break. If your other option is to roll, if you're basically deciding between rolling and taking a -4, I would roll every time, right?
I would roll there because is that -4? Is that
I don't know. It must be. Hopefully he'll tell us before we go because
I doubt he's
you're
got that. I doubt he's got the money sitting on the bank. Like you're looking at Rafinha this week, and he's at home to Leicester. Leicester haven't been great defensively, so I don't think I would be looking to sell
I think
Rafinha to Son.
Leicester's left side, I think it is as well, is where they've conceded a lot of chances, which is where Rafinha plays. So
Right,
if anything, I would be targeting that. Like, and I'm sure it will show up in the matchup show later this week as a kind of
plug.
player to get. Yeah.
Nice plug. Nice
So I think they're
segue.
going live on Thursday. So on that note, we're not going to be here next Monday. We are going to take a break in the first Monday, the international break from the Compass show. But all four of us will hopefully be back on Friday then.
It's going to be like the Avengers getting together, or like somebody called it like the Beatles becoming reunited, like finally after all this time, or like Oasis getting back together. Like it's
I'd love to know which one's which. I guess on that note, guys, there is some other exciting stuff coming. We have some more guests lined up after the international break, so keep your eyes tuned. And for the podcast listeners, thank you as always. Thank you for bearing with some of the stuff that we do with the live interactions. We apologize. I might long term look at kind of editing the podcast and actually cutting out the parts where we just like are talking to the YouTube viewers and then kind of upload it separately as a shorter file. So let us know again your feedback. We will do some polls. Let us know what kind of content you want to see more of in the VODs, and Otherwise, good morning if you're on the east, and good evening and good afternoon if you're in the west with us. I think we're going to leave it here. I don't know if there's anything you want to say before we go, Hibbo, but otherwise, just kind of thanks for joining and smash like and get out on the way.
That's that. See you next maybe Friday week.
Yeah, exactly. See you guys soon, and here's to a nice little final game week before the international break.
9 green arrows, baby.